The medical review of authoritative data, or more commonly referred to as MROAD, is a new update that MEPS is implementing effective 1 December of 2021 and is in fact impacting applicants across the nation. You will not find another video as comprehensive, concise, informative as this one here. So stay tuned. Here we go! What's up, everybody? Welcome back here to Team Swartz, and if this is your first time here, welcome to my channel. Here I post a ton of Army basic training tips, recruiting, and other Army-related videos, to include going live weekly to address your most desired questions and concerns, typically on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Although by day, my full-time job is a full-time recruiter for the New York Army National Guard, conveniently located in Midtown Manhattan, and a part-time drill sergeant. On my free time, I create content like this on my free time for you to help you with the enlistment process or to prepare yourselves both mentally and physically for Army basic training. In this video, I will be discussing a lot of information that will help you and possibly your recruiter understand more about the MROAD, the process, right? This will serve as an overview. We'll talk about the processes for non-prior service and prior service applicants, to include a link that you'll be able to pull your prescription history for the past 7 years. And I will also share with you how a prior service individual who was previously served in the military, even though they've been at multiple installations throughout their contract, how to pull their medical records for the past 5 years, even through basic training reception the day they enlisted at MEPS. So please stick around for the entire video. So MROAD is an umbrella program that will be leveraging the PMRS, the JLV, and the E-Records systems. It is designed for pre-screening purposes only. MROAD consists of 2 primary systems, the PMRS and the JLV. PMRS is your prescription medical reporting system, which is a third-party system designed for MEPS to be able to pull and print out your prescription history for all potential applicants. JLV, or the Joint Longitudinal Viewer, which is a system that allows MEPS to pull and print out prescription history for all prior service individuals and their dependents for the past 7 years, to include all medical records for all medical issues that were conducted at medical facilities on a military installation or a Veterans Affairs hospital. Note that this MROAD requirement will only be initiated for all applicants except for those who are processing to be an officer candidate. If you are applying for OCS, you are exempt from this MROAD requirement. However, whether you are a non-prior service individual, meaning you've never served in the military, or if you are prior service, if something has been identified in the past, either by self-admittal or through pulling MROAD, the burden of proof of the medical diagnosis and records are on the applicant. MEPS will not be pulling your medical records from the source. The burden of proof will always be on the applicant, with the exception of prior service individuals, because we will have access to your actual records. Well, at least MEPS will anyway, not the recruiters. But MEPS will have access to your medical records, again, for prior service individuals. But for non-prior service individuals, or for anything that was conducted in a civilian medical facility, that documentation is on the applicant. So let's talk about packet and submission. GCs, or the guidance counselors for your respective branch of service, will be submitting the MROAD requests by 1100 hours, that's 11 a.m. for you civilians, and MEPS will have 1 day or 24 hours to pull your records through the PMRS or the JLV systems. Understand that when you complete your medical history pre-screened form, the DD form 2807-2 with your recruiter, everything must be listed as is, because when we pull up the PMRS or the JLV records, it's only pulling up the prescriptions. It doesn't show the diagnosis or the reasoning behind why it was prescribed to you, okay? So that is why it's important that you list whatever ailment, illness, or injury on your 2807, so that when they pull your JLV PMRS record, that it coincides together. And if you have medical supporting documentation, it is best to have it at the same time for that submission to eliminate any delays. But MEPS will go through all records that are coded red. I will place a screenshot of medications or prescriptions that are considered red medications, and they will need medical documentation in support for these prescriptions that are identified in your PMRS or JLV records. MEPS will go through your PMRS and your JLV record and do a side-by-side comparison to what you submitted with your pre-screen with the DD Form 2807-2 completed with your recruiter. And if things require additional documentation, they will code it M, which means that it has not been reconciled and more medical documentation must be submitted to complete your request for your medical exam. If it's reconciled, it will be coded R, meaning that you are good to go, continue to process if otherwise eligible to process. So if no prescriptions pop up on your PMRS record, then your packet will be coded PA, processing authorized, and you will get the green light and to continue to process for the medical exam. At that point, your recruiter will schedule you for your medical exam and continue from there. So if your PMRS or JLV record pops up for any type of prescription in your history, it must match your 2807-2, your medical history pre-screen form, again, as you completed with your recruiter. It must match. If not, medical documentation must be sourced by the applicant and submitted by your recruiter. The burden of proof will always be on the applicant. Here's a disclaimer, because you never know what can happen at MEPS, and the MEPS CMO can do pretty much whatever they feel that they can do within their authority. So with that being said, the MEPS CMO, Chief Medical Officer, can request additional medical documentation on whatever they feel that if it possibly exists and they want records of it, they will ask you for those records. If no records are found, your recruiter will talk to you about the necessary steps from there. MEPS assures us that if the applicants are honest and they list everything on a DD Form 2807-2 and submit the necessary medical documentation to support it, you won't have any issues processing through MEPS. And if you're otherwise eligible to join, you will continue your process and become a service member in the United States military. PMRS will go back up to 7 years for both non-prior service and prior service applicants of their prescription history. To include for prior service individuals going back 5 years, pulling medical records for the applicant and their dependents. Down in the description area, you will find a link for rxhistories.com where you could pull your prescription history for the past 7 years, which is the same database that MEPS personnel will be pulling your history from. On the screen is an example of what you should receive via email once you request your record, and you should get it within 48 to 72 hours. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's a fickle system, but consider RX Histories as kind of like a credit report, but for your prescription history. So it's as good as your insurance company updating it. If you pull your record through this website and you identify a prescription that does not belong to you, you've never heard of it before, you can reach out to them and challenge it. If they are unable to source proof within 30 days, I believe is what the website says, if I read it correctly, that they will remove it from your record. So I would suggest that you pull your record yourself just to see what's on there and maybe challenge it if it in fact is not yours, because it can impact the CMO's decision on whether or not you are otherwise eligible to enlist or move forward with your process. So for you prior service individuals, you are going to complete a form DD 2870, which is your authorization for disclosure of medical or dental information, and you will submit that to a TRICARE clinic or a military medical facility at your local military installation. If you are not anywhere near a TRICARE clinic or a military medical facility, reach out to them, submit that form, and you'll get your record typically within 5 to 10 days if you have to submit it that way. But if you go in person, typically within 15 minutes or less, based on feedback of people that physically went to go request a record, got it in under 10 minutes. You're welcome. So if you made it this far into the video, I'm gonna share with you my insight on MROAD. I don't honestly feel that MROAD necessarily is a bad thing. I do feel that it is going to significantly slow down the process of processing potential applicants into the service. This is also going to force applicants to be more honest, upfront, and forthright with their assigned recruiters, and force certain recruiters to do things the right way rather than going to the gray area and cutting corners to get a quick enlistment and possibly risking their applicant or potential soldier in the future issues while being in the service, while not disclosing certain medical conditions or history. So have honest dialogue with your recruiter. So if you are the applicant and you are watching this video, please, for the love of God, have honest dialogue. What you may think is a minor issue can and will be a major deciding factor on whether or not you are in fact eligible to enlist, contract, and move forward with your process into the United States military. We, as recruiters, right, we want to make sure that you are eligible to enlist, to move forward, and to be part of something that is much greater than ourselves. MEP's job is to make sure that they have the healthiest specimen enlisting into the United States military and to prevent unnecessary payouts for disability or compensation for your medical condition. The day you enlist, you are at a certain medical condition. If through your military service, by the time you exit the military, if you are anything less than how you contracted at that time, the military is required to compensate you for the rest of your life in the form of disability. At the time that you process out of the military, when you disclose and you process all of your medical history throughout your term of service, they will rate you at a certain percentage, and depending on that percentage, you will receive a permanent paycheck for the rest of your life to compensate for the injuries, the illnesses, and the wear and tear that the military has impressed upon you throughout your service. So the MEPS CMO, although they may seem unrealistic and an a-hole for making certain decisions for what we feel as your recruiter and you being the applicant in your capability of performing certain physical activities throughout your career, although yes, you could do it now, but the CMO is trying to prevent disability compensation payouts further on down the line. So what may be a minor ailment now, let's say carpal tunnel or like arthritis or something like that, right? That can over time progress into a worser condition. The military has to compensate you for the rest of the life, and that's what they're identifying, mitigating those unnecessary costs in the future. We are thinking as your recruiter and as the applicant in the now. They're thinking down the road, and that is the mindset of MEPS. So you give an inch, they will take a mile. So have that honest dialogue with your recruiter so that we can set you up for success and not failure. If you are qualified and otherwise eligible, we will move forward with your application. If we identify something and you need to source medical records, please help your recruiter get them in a timely fashion. It is as important to you as it is for us. We want to enlist or contract you as soon as possible. So we will move as fast as you move yourself. The burden of proof is on the applicant, not the recruiter. On the applicant. You have to disclose everything to your recruiter and process it from there. In doing so, will ensure your success and making sure that the MEPS gods are forever in your favor. With that being said, I hope that you make it through. I hope that you found this video useful and informative and insightful. If you made it this far into the video, do me a favor, hit that like button. It helps out the channel. Subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon, and turn on all notifications so you don't miss anything to include when I go live weekly to address your most desired questions and concerns. Happy New Year, all right? And I hope that 2022 was better than your 2021. I know that 2021 came and went. It went pretty fast. We had some ups, we had some downs, but you know what? 2022 is looking phenomenal. Regardless of this new MROAD requirement, we are excited to help you out.